My name is Cheri. Welcome to my stamp studio. Today I have a fun card for you. This is not the card that we're going to do, but I'm going to do a variation of it. I like to show you how to copy cards, and I don't want to copy somebody else's when I'm doing a video. So I like sometimes to take a project that I've done before in the past, and this one I've just recently done, and I'm going to switch it up a little bit. So this one I did a couple of weeks ago when Stampin' Up! Was having our 24-hour flash sale, and I used Waterfront, which is kind of a summer set. As the name implies, water. You don't want to be in the water in the middle of winter. But I made it work, and I made it be a Christmas set. But I wanted to use Snowfront, which is, Waterfront was on sale. Snowfront is in the holiday catalog. Waterfront's no longer on sale. So we're going to make this at camp this weekend at my house. So I'm going to use Snowfront. The other thing is, this one, I made it be Christmassy by snow capping the mountains. It's not an appropriate card for ladies in Indiana to send as their Christmas card. We have no mountains. If you live in Utah or Colorado, the Appalachians, the Smokies, up in the eastern part of the United States where there's mountains, go for it. It does not look like it came from the Midwest. So I'm able to make a very stark looking Midwest scene with Snowfront. It's a really pretty set. And then I'm going to use, I also did a card with this. It will have posted a couple of videos ago. This is the Merry Christmas to All suite, and I did the lovely die cut sleigh, and I was only able to put this sentiment on the inside because of the size of the window, and I really like this sentiment. This one didn't have one, so especially at Christmas, mix your sets together. If you have one that doesn't have words and you had another one, put your words on it. So I'm going to use just the words out of that set. And then my all-time favorite, I could put it on every card, I'm going to use my buffalo check. So I do have the Stamparatus because I want it to be a nice bold black. Because you know, black and white, black and vanilla is really on trend right now in buffalo check. Go anywhere and everywhere in home decor, and there it is. It's actually in clothing too. So I'm going to take a tiny piece of snail, just tiny. I'm going to put it there. I went around the edges once and I stamped it just to see kind of where this was outlining. I have one magnet that's holding the one piece of paper down. It's red rubber, so you don't need the little mat. And then this is a quarter piece of cardstock, so I can't use the magnet on it. That's why I put the snail there. But I'm just going to kind of line that up. And I marked the corners just with pencil, so it'd be a little bit easier to see after it starts getting closed more and more times. So I've lined that up kind of straight along that edge. And I'm going to press that so it holds it. Then we're going to ink this up. Looks like I have something stuck there. You know, you get little pieces of dimensionals and whatnot on your table. There we go. So I just have the black memento. You can do basic gray, and I did the first time just because it's a little bit easier to clean, but it wasn't the look I was going for. Once I stamped it, I was like, yeah, that's gray, and I want black. I even have a black buffalo check pumpkin. If you've been in Home Goods this season, well, you know, it's all Christmas there now. All Christmas all the time once. I think they have a little display left of Thanksgiving stuff, but once Halloween was over, I went in the next day and that Christmas stuff was 70% off. I mean, Halloween stuff was 70% off. But pretty much anything that was fall, unless they thought you could use it on your Thanksgiving table, it was on sale. So now it's Christmas. But I did have buffalo check, and there's a ton of Christmas buffalo check, a ton of Christmas with the red truck. My girlfriend is working on the cutest little red truck garland you ever did see, and it also has the buffalo check. So she mixed the two of them. So just press it nice and good. And then we don't use two magnets at camp because, you know, if you put them together, they'll shatter. So you're just going to use the spatula tip of the take your pick and hold on to the paper because this won't shatter. Okay, now this is why I'm going to do two, because you can see all the places that I missed. I really should have stood up, but it's okay because you've got your Stamparatus. So just ink it again. If you're going for a flannel look, then that might be okay. I should have, if I'd stood up, it would be better. You know, the pressing and pressing. This is when you get your stamping exercise because it's a big stamp. I'm going to show you at the end of this video, so watch all the way to the end, the other card that I have done that will actually be a December camp project with Snowfront. It's gorgeous too, and it is another copy from the 24-hour sale. But I used the birch background on it. I didn't have to use the Stamparatus because I didn't care if it was perfect. But because this has, and I don't use the Stamparatus all the time, so there you go. That's much better. If I'd stood up the first time, we might not have needed that. So I am going to, now I've got black ink on me, I'm going to put this aside because any place where there might be little wells of black ink, you might get it on you. That might be how I already have it on me. So just set it aside and we'll do the rest of the card and then we'll come back to that. So let's put our pieces through the die cut because if you watch the original one, we're going to use some fun dies. We're going to use the Feels Like Frost dies. And then we're going to use, this is also from the Merry Christmas to All bundle. I didn't pop these out from the last time, so we'll see if they need to be popped out. But this little piece here is also from the Feels Like Frost. And that determines the size of where we're going to stamp. And when I stamped on them, when I would do it first and then run it through the thing, sometimes they weren't as centered as I liked. And this one, because I'm using even more than I did when it was Waterfront, I think it's even more important to do it. So this still has my pieces in it from when I made my sample card. So we'll see if they have to all be popped out. Sometimes they pop themselves out. I did run this one through once, twice, and then one more time. And because this has paper in it, I'm going to take it out and see. So there's the once and twice. And I'm going to flip this one upside down. Well, it looks like they're coming out. I'm going to send it through that way because you know me, I don't like to poke. I don't like to poke. I don't like to run that little brush over. I mean, you can do it, but I would rather see, I would rather have them all come out from rolling. It's so much easier. And that's why they're all stuck in here because this is the black foil and it's a little bit thicker than regular cardstock and it has a coating and they're just staying in there. So when I did it and these were popped out, all of those fell out. The ones that stuck, they're still stuck in there. So it's going to take a little bit of poking. And it's my fault for not cleaning my die out. So you should take your little brush tip that goes on the end of your Take Your Pick tool and roll those out. So then this is red glimmer paper. And it also takes 2 times. This only takes 1. So I'm going to do these separate. So just roll that. And then roll that back because you're cutting through glitter. But twice is fine. You can see that's pulling out just perfect. It makes it so beautiful. And then just once with this. And this is one where you don't want to do speed bump, so just send it at an angle. And it's got a really pretty stitched pattern on it. And this I'm doing on shimmer white. The other pieces are just vanilla. This little piece here is shimmer white. Scrap over here. And I hope that I don't get this black that's on my hands. So because it's stitched, you know, sometimes the stitches stick in the cardstock. Look how pretty that is. So now we just need to stamp. So you'll want to watch the video next week of the other card I'm going to show you at the end because I build a much larger scene. But this will give you the basics of building a scene with these little blocks. So you want to start with your focal thing, the things that you don't want to get covered up. So I'm going to use the deer. I'm going to do those in early espresso. And obviously you don't want any trees over the top of your deer because they're going to kind of be our main image. So let's put our deer here. And this is why I wanted to cut this out first because now I know exactly where it's going to be and how much space I have to work with. So that's my early espresso. And then I'm going to use Old Olive. And this set comes with 4 different sized evergreen trees. So this is going to be my second main image that I don't want really anything to cover up. it to be right by my deer. So you could almost stop with this, but like I said, I was kind of going for Midwest. And we got more than one tree almost everywhere. So now I'm gonna go with the gray granite. These are the same colors that I used on my original card because I really liked the color scheme. So if you like it, stay with it. And these are our Midwest. Oh, our trees don't look like this yet. They will soon. These are definitely our Midwest December trees. So again, I'm not putting them so they're stamping over anything because there's little evergreens and I'm gonna fill in with those. So now I've got those. So the secret is to work with the biggest things, and then as your space gets smaller, start filling in with the smaller stamps. So there's 3 sizes now left of evergreens. So let's start with the biggest one. I think I can fit one here. They'll be in different places than they were on my other card just because you start filling in where they fit. And then these 2 are tiny. That comes with a teensy tiny little bird. I didn't put it on this card, but it is on my other card. It comes with a snowman. It comes with an adorable little cottage, because I think the one in Waterfront is like a fishing cabin or an outhouse. It doesn't look like anybody lives in it. And then these can kind of overlap because this is where you kind of fill in your scene. But I don't want it too busy. I don't want it too much. So I think that looks good. You could maybe add one there. I'm not going to. So now I'm going to use the Snowfall Accent Puff Paint, and I'm going to put this on here and I'm going to let it sit for a minute before I heat it because I don't want it to go crazy. This is a more subdued card. I don't want it to look like our poor deer are in any kind of a blizzard. So I'm just going to, you have to be careful with this. You don't shake it and you don't tump it over because you'll get a ton. So I'm not even squeezing. You just let it come out, and I'm just going to do the ground. I'm not going to snow cap my trees. I'm just kind of giving them a base. So in this little woodland scene, it snowed a few days ago, and it's still on the ground. If you live where it snows, you know what I mean. But it's all melted off the trees because we've had some sunny days, and it's all off the trees. If you don't live there, it doesn't stay on the trees forever. It has to be super cold, and it can be super, super cold. You Aussie girls would think you're gonna die, but it can be super cold, and the sun can come out, and it can melt. So there you go. That's your nature fact for today. And then this is some retro dazzling diamonds. And I'm just going to pour this on here. When's the last time y'all used your dazzling diamonds? In fact, I thought, I wonder if I have any dazzling diamonds, because it's been a minute that I've used it. And I went over there, and I had 3 of them. 3 full ones like this. So it's a great, oops, I guess I better not put that on. It's a great way to use up something you may have and might not have used for a while. It gives a totally different look. I've done some videos recently where I put the ice glitter on here, and that's a totally different look. But I'm gonna let that sit. It won't dry all the way, but it'll at least settle a minute. So we can do the rest of the card, and then we'll heat that up at the very end. So let's stamp the inside of the card. So again, this is just a half sheet of Very Vanilla. Fold that in half. The font on this saying is really pretty. A lot of times it's the fonts that get me just as much as the words. It says, "May the magic of Christmas reach you this year." And I like when there's mixed fonts. And I like when they're a little bit retro. So there's the words. And then we're going to take one of the trees where I put my olive pad. So you can see this has really nice subtle colors. It's not a super flashy Christmas card, but you know me, I can do flashy. There's not going to be any ribbon on it. So let's just do one tree here. So we have that. And then let's melt all the things together. So on this, you can see that right here, it didn't hit right. So for an optical illusion, because if you put this on here, the whole thing is going to look a little crooked. So I'm just going to take my scissors. If you spend $115 with me on my website this month and you use the host code, you get a free paper trimmer. But for this, you don't need a paper trimmer. But just the optical illusion of that now, it doesn't look crooked anymore. But if you leave that on there, then it will. Okay, now most of this is going to get covered by this big black piece that I have to poke. I don't have to poke too many pieces, but there are a few. I've got my spatula tip. I thought about taking one of these and it didn't work though, because I wanted to put two tips, a spatula and a pokey, because I don't use my little gooby tip as often. I use my other two all the time. So these are poked. They just stayed in because my die was full. That's my fault. My brush is already packed. Oh no, I have another one. I have lots of all of these things. Some of them are packed already, ready for camp. So if you have to take your pick, you just flip the brush on instead of the gooby thing. I prefer not to use it on the foil because it can scratch it. And you really need my little, my foam pads are down, ready to go down for camp. Because I didn't have to do this on my original card because I poked all my things out of my die. But it is downstairs. Okay, there we go. I hate doing this on camera. That's why I try to make it. This is why I roll one more time on the die and on the machine, and usually this avoids this because I hate this part. In fact, that beautiful stitch lace die that's in the front of the catalog this year, in the annual catalog, I found a way to make it work where you didn't have to do this, because I knew if I had to do this, I would not use a die. So I didn't want to poke. Okay, so there we go. So you're gonna put this, you need the room over here for your, take your season, but if anywhere on here, if your buffalo check didn't stamp well, you can kind of move this around. So let's mount this on here. It's gonna, this part right here isn't great, but it's going to get covered up. And you can see these little knobs right here. That's where if you touch those before it's all the way dry, that's when it gets black on your hand. So if you're always getting ink and you're like, I don't know how I'm getting covered in all this ink, that's how. Because if you have little places where there's a ton of ink, and so this is cut to size, but, you know, sometimes we don't fold exactly perfect. So don't like press it on here. You can see I didn't put my adhesive all the way to the edge. So I can kind of lay it on here and make sure it's okay, and that's good enough. And then because then if you need to lift it up, you still have time to lift it up. So let's add this. Put this here, take this out. And this, of course, sticks to itself a little bit. Two reasons: because the script is so intertwined on itself that it kind of grabs, and because it's glitter paper. So you got a double whammy with this one, but it comes out pretty good. And then you just need to make sure that all of your centers. Now I have a pokey tip because I have two take your pick tools over here. There we go. And then let's just take the red rhinestones, because I don't have, oh, here's some. I don't have anything on dimensionals on here, but if you use the dimensional stuff here, it's a great backing as a resist. Let's put this here. And again, I'm not going to press that because I do want to be able to put this. And so now this is going to be, it'd be almost touch dry, but I'm not going to touch it because I may have black on my hand still. I don't want any black snow. So now it's not going to over puff. because if you do it when it's wet, for one thing, it moves everywhere. So this is just giving it time to kind of set, and it will puff some, but it's not going to do like Santa hat puff, like cotton puff. It's going to do more of a snow puff. And you'll see it go. It can burn and it can turn brown. You don't want brown snow. You don't want to look like the deer spent too long in one little spot. There you go. But he didn't want giant snow that was going to overwhelm the delicate little images there. Now this works better if you put your adhesive onto the gold foil, because you can see where that it sticks. So just make sure, because sometimes the foils resist the, lift that up and center that on there. And because this is, and now those places where I have the adhesive, I can tack that all down. And then because our greeting says, may the magic of Christmas reach you this year. I don't know if you all remember those commercials, maybe it's just us older people, where, you know, the tree in the forest just magically comes alight. That's kind of what this reminded me of. So we're going to add one. These are just the red rhinestones from the regular old annual catalog. So just add that there. And there you go. Super easy. You could whip these out fairly quickly. Just make sure you clean out your black dye before you send another one through, because it's faster to roll the brush over the dye itself. If you're not familiar with how to do that, let me show you real quick. You just take this, and instead of rolling it on your paper, you roll this, and see, they come right out that way. So here's some black paper in here. Just roll that over, and they fall right out. So then this is clean, and then you don't have them stuck in there. That's what I should have done before I started. So I did want to remind you that you can get a free paper trimmer this month. And then I wanted to show you this, which is the same. It's the Snowfront, and it will be a December camp project. It uses the ice glitter and a much larger scene. But again, very similar card. It's a beautiful stamp set. It's very inexpensive, and you'll find that you can use it year round. It'll make great birthday cards. In fact, this is a birthday card. And the tutorial for this will post next week, because I've already filmed it. I filmed them out of order because I wanted to pack this for camp. So I wanted to do that one so I could get this just put in a bucket when I was done. So here's this one. But I do have specials. I will have, oh, this will probably post after camp. If it posts on the weekend, there are weekend specials. I almost always have weekend specials. I won't next weekend because I will be in Lansing. But if you're a demonstrator, even if you're not, if you want to see some sneak peeks, I will have that on my Facebook page about what's coming up. You're always welcome to join my demonstrator team. I have a super fun event that will be happening in December. If you live in Indiana, you can come to it. If you don't, I will mail you this stuff, and you can take part with my girls that don't live in Indiana as we do those projects together. So that's what I have for you today. Everybody have a great day. Bye.